It's usually hello and hello to everybody, especially if you are a Muslim. Time for the plugs. Don't forget there's a show Patreon where you get a whole lot of exclusive, uncut, unedited, downloadable content. That's right, if you want to be able to get the free, full, total, unedited audio from these interviews, that's the place to go. Don't forget that if you're watching this on YouTube, there's also an uncensored iTunes audio version. Don't forget, if you're listening to this, you can go onto YouTube and watch this and see exactly what we look like. Also, don't forget to follow the Creative Control Network on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I'll put the links down below. You can click on them and you can find out about all the other great shows on the Creative Control Network, such as Oh What a Rush with Animal. Yes, the Animal from Legion of Doom. We've got Wrestling of Reality by John Wangland. We've got the Hambone Show. And new to the Creative Control Network, the Highway to Helms. That's right. The actual Hurricane Shane Helms is lucky to be a co-worker of Hughezy himself. I bet you he can't believe it himself. He talks about it all the time. We're practically best friends. Also, don't forget, if you're a fan of Conan Disco Inferno, go find the official Keeping It 100 YouTube page. It's on YouTube. That is where you can actually interact with their show. Also means you can stop asking me where are the uploads. And don't forget to get in touch with me on Instagram and Twitter. But here's the thing. If you're going to write me stuff about particular episodes and the stuff, even though you're on YouTube and there's a comment section, if you start writing me dumb stuff, I'm just going to block you straight away, because I've had it with idiots. At one point, one of you is going to smarten up, and then eventually a second person will smarten up, and it'll catch on, we'll keep going forever. And we'll all live in a happy place. Everybody just shuts up and listens to what I say. I'm having a great day. The plugs are over. Today we've got a great one for you. We've got the legendary Jackie Martling coming on, talking about all kinds of classic Rodney Dangerfield stories, talking about Louis CK, Kevin Hart, talking the stuff about Jenna Jameson, talking about Opie versus Anthony. So that's up at the end. We've also got the brilliant Mike Durband, who people may know from Venom Vinyl with Vince Russo. We're on debating the top 5 WWE entrance themes. Now, you might think that's not interesting, but it is. It's funny. But up first, we've got Eddie Green. Now, who's Eddie Green, you say? Well, Eddie Green is the host of this new podcast, relatively new podcast called Terminator 101. And that might not mean a lot to you right now, but trust me, when I got the chance to speak to Eddie and get him on, I know this guy's going to blow up big time in a couple of months. The thing about Eddie and his podcast is, it's like whenever you hear a brilliant new band before they get signed up to a major label, and you realise, right, this is going to be great. So it's best to get in with Eddie now on the ground floor, because I'm not going to give spoilers, but will you find out who he's got coming up on his show. I'll link all his social media down below. You can follow him and find out more info. But trust me, this guy has got a great podcast and it's going to get huge. But I can't say any more than that. What I can say, though, is the audio in this segment isn't amazing. You know, it's not exactly CD quality. I'm old. But overall, you can hear it. But remember, if you want to hear it uncut and you want to hear it with some extras, that's all I can say. Go check out the audio version that you'll get on all your good podcasts and streaming apps. Eddie, hello. So, hey, Eddie Green, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and actually, it was weird because I've got really bad sleeping patterns, and I just happened to randomly find you on Twitter at night when I posted out one of my dumb Terminator jokes. And now you've got like a new subscriber, a new follower, everything.
Awesome, dude. Wait, so how did you find me?
Twitter.
Twitter, okay.
I made you see, they've for, as most people probably know, they've kept the title of Terminator 6 top secret. And every couple of days, I do some dumb joke like breaking news. The title of the film is Terminator 6 Escape from Pegasus Mountain. Talk to me about your podcast and why you started one.
Well, see, the thing is I had a YouTube channel called Bigger About Movies, and it was dedicated to film in general. And I kept coming back to Terminator in any episode that I would do. So if I was doing something about, I don't know, Jurassic Park, for example, I would somehow find a way to incorporate Terminator. So I found myself in this dilemma of, if I'm constantly talking about Terminator, but I'm on a podcast and a YouTube channel about movies in general, that's not going to jive with a lot of people because they're going to kind of get sick of it, right? They're going to get tired of the Terminator talk, and they're going to be like, where's the open-ended movie talk? So I quit the Bigger Boat Movies podcast and started up the Terminator 101. And this was in August of last year. This podcast hasn't been around that long, and it's pretty insane the amount of people that have found the podcast, have listened to it. You know, the guests that I've had on, it's really been a dream come true, and I'm just now starting to get into the business end of it with sponsors and figuring out how to make this a living. You know what I mean? Like, not just doing it for fun, because I am super passionate about this. And yeah, so that's essentially the short version of it. I mean, of course you can go on and on, but yeah.
Because one of the things I wanted to mention too was, have you heard the big rumor that next month is when the trailer comes out?
Next month is when the trailer comes out, they say.
Yeah, because isn't it? There's the Super Bowl is the big rumor, and then there's a new James Cameron film coming out called Battle Angel Attila or something like that.
Yes, Alita, Battle Angel. Yep.
Alita, and the rumor is the trailer and the title is going to be all tagged with that, with a big trailer reveal.
I thank you for telling me that. No, I didn't know that, and that's something that I'm very aware about. That I don't know everything, and I love it when people tell me stuff and bring me up to speed on it. So I mean, that would make sense, right? The Super Bowl, come on.
Well, here's another rumor that's going about. I don't know if you've heard this, and this one gets me going, oh shit. The big rumor is Guns N' Roses have got a song coming out for Terminator 6. Have you heard any of that?
No, man, I am not keen on these rumors. Where are you hearing this from?
Well, there's another. See, I'm a big Guns N' Roses guy, and you always hear these people talk, and because Axl Rose, he's always writing songs. And
okay.
The Guns N' Roses are back together, and people are like, this would be the perfect opportunity for them to bring out a new song on the biggest commercial platform.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a big Guns N' Roses follower, but are they still pretty relevant today?
Oh, enormous! They just did a 3-year-long stadium tour.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. No, and Slash is back in the band, and Duff's back. It's the 80s all over again.
Great. I mean, yeah, the 80s is coming back full swing, right?
If only. But tell me more about Terminator 6. Have you heard if it's going to be R-rated or anything like that?
No, see, that's the thing. That's the thing with me and the podcast. The podcasts, and I've said it before, I'll say it here as well, it's not a news source. It's not some place people go to get news, because I'm just a guy that lives in Florida in the United States. I'm not some insider Hollywood guy. You know what I mean? I'm just a fan. So I have no idea what it's going to be about. All I have and all I do on the podcast, among talking to guests and whatnot, is speculation and theories. Essentially what you do with your, even if it's for comedy purposes. So I know me personally, absolutely 100%, it needs to be rated R. And I think with Tim Miller attached to it and the success that Deadpool had, with that, rating and the overall box office it drew, it shows that you can have a successful rated R film and not worry about it not being financially successful. You know, that's something that I feel like Terminator has gotten kind of stuck in with these last two films, right? Salvation from 2009 and Genesis from 2015 were both PG-13, and Terminator is not PG-13. It's you can't water it down. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's just me.
Well, for me, I think if you water it down, it's just another action film.
Exactly.
Like it needs to have that roughness to it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like give me some insight into you. Like what kind of a movie fan are you? Like, are you?
It's like if it's got a giant monster in it, or if it's got an alien in it, I'm going to see it.
Okay. All right.
But let me ask you, what do you think about this opinion? This opinion that I have that Terminator 3 is better than Terminator 1.
Whoa. Hold on. You just said Terminator 3 is better than Terminator 1?
Yep.
Okay, I see where you're coming from there. I mean, absolutely. The first film is visually, from an effect standpoint, it's dated, absolutely. But I argue you that in 20 years, people looking back will have more respect, because that's the thing that you have to remember with really any film. It doesn't have to be Terminator. It can be any film. At some point, it's going to look dated, right? Avatar in 20 years will look dated. It's just the way things work. So you have to appreciate it for the time it was created in. In 1984, oh my God, like I wasn't even born in 1984. So I can only imagine what people thought of. You know, it was probably what we felt when Avatar came out, of like, oh my God, this looks real. Like, this is actually real. That's probably what they felt with that. So I argue that in 20 years, I mean, I think Terminator 3, all that CGI in that film, that's dated. You know what I mean? Compared to Terminator 1 from 84, where, yeah, it looks cheesy and you can tell it's stop motion and you can tell it's miniatures, but there's a lovely factor to it, the fact that it was practical and that it was people taking, you know, cardboard or anything and assembling it and making it happen. It wasn't done on a computer. You know, this thing that I'm using to talk to you, it was done with their hands. And I don't know, it's a different point of view, but
But do you think Terminator 3 ever had a chance critically?
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. I mean, when you have the creator and he doesn't come back, and there's a great story about that with Arnold. You know, Arnold was even hesitant to come back to Terminator 3 because Cameron was not attached to it. And, you know, Cameron basically told him, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but something to the extent of, you know, you basically are just as big a part of Terminator as I am. I mean, you are the face of Terminator. So do it and ask for as much money as you can. Just do it, you know? And when I watch Terminator 3, that's the feeling I get. I get the feeling that Arnold didn't want to be there, and that he just felt like, okay, well, James said I should do it. I should ask for as much money as possible, because remember, at this point, Arnold is thinking, I don't even want to do movies anymore. I want to be the governor. You know, that's where I want to be. So this is the last movie that he does before he becomes governor. So he was really not interested in the film, I think. And I think it shows on film as well. He's so cold. He just looks bored. And I think that's a big reason why it failed. I think, well, I don't know if it failed financially. I think it was financially successful, but that's just because of, you know, it was the third Terminator, and oh my God, it's the trilogy. But I think it failed for a bunch of reasons. And the storyline is literally a carbon copy. You can literally look at it. It's a carbon copy of Terminator 2. And with just, you know, a few minute details, like when he walks into the bar with the male stripper. I mean, why would you do that? Like, it's creative choices like that that just irk the hell out of me. It's literally a disrespect to the franchise. But yeah, I'm really fascinated. I did not know. Like, you're 100% on it being better than the first Terminator.
Yeah, I just think that if Cameron had the chance to remake Terminator 1 these days, it would have been a totally different film.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because, like, have you ever checked out Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time?
Never got seen in them.
Okay, because that was an attraction at Universal Studios. And, I mean, it still is in Japan. I think is the only place that it's still going on even today. But it had two previous locations, one here in Florida, and I'm in Orlando right now in Florida. And so I'm very close to Universal Studios. But it was here and it was in Hollywood. And basically, one of the reasons for that attraction was to give whoever made the next film, even if it wasn't Cameron, it was to give them stepping stones to a full-length feature film, because there's a great making of documentary for this attraction. And you hear Cameron say that, you know, that basically this is a short film that is really going to be the stepping stone and the building blocks for a third feature-length film. So yes, absolutely, 100%. If Cameron had done it, I do believe that it would have been a better product, and it would have taken the story in a much more interesting direction. I mean, that's probably the only positive I have about Terminator 3, right? It's the ending. Everybody loves the ending.
I think it should have been the final Arnold Terminator.
Oh, okay. So you think Arnold should have just done Terminator 3 and that's it?
Yeah, because then it's getting into the crowbar-y type thing, you know?
Yeah.
But speaking of a Terminator that Arnold wasn't in, Terminator 4, it came out, and I wouldn't say that it tanked, but it cost so much money to make that it could never have made a profit unless it broke records. Well, what do you think of Terminator 4 as film quality?
You know, Terminator 4 or Salvation is kind of the odd one in the franchise, right? Because I mean, it's the only one that actually takes place in the future, and it's a totally different setting than what we're used to, right? But for that, it's unique, absolutely. A lot of people don't think it follows suit with what Cameron originally intended, and I think there's a quote from the director of that film, Nick G, and he's basically said, well, you know, because, you know, things have been altered from the second and third films, you know, because of these cyborgs coming back from the future and basically altering everything, you know, stuff is going to look different, and it's not going to look the exact same way that we originally thought it would. And I get that. I understand that. But I wasn't crazy about it. And the fact that you don't have Arnold, it's such a tricky thing. It's like, do you need Arnold for a good Terminator film, or do you not need Arnold? It's a tricky balance, and it's something that I've consistently said on the podcast. It's a fine line that you walk with anything in life, but especially with these films. So you got to figure out, if you take Arnold out of the equation, you're going to lose a lot of the audience. And I do believe Salvation is one of the lowest grossing films in the franchise, and I think it's because of that. I think it's because people were like, oh, well, Arnold's not in it, so why would I go see it? And the fact that it's, you know, PG-13, that was the first Terminator film that was PG-13, and I think that affected it, you know, as much as it was supposed to bring more people, because by making it PG-13, you're supposedly widening your audience, right? But I don't buy that. And again, Deadpool and a bunch of other films have proven that you can have a rated R film and it be financially successful.
Mm-hmm. But also, one of the things about Terminator 4 for me is that the two lead actors are on such different levels. Like, you've got Sam Worthington really playing it sort of chilled out, and then you've got Christian Bale, and he's talking like this constantly every 2 words, and it's like it doesn't match, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, I love that outrage that he had on the set. That's like one of my favorite things in life. I'm consistently quoting that thing, you know. And then did you hear that like awesome remix song that someone made years back? Oh my god, it's so great.
But I would say that action-wise, Terminator 4 is unbelievable.
Effects wise?
Yeah. No, action-wise.
Oh, okay, yeah, action and effects wise. I mean, I think it looks better than Terminator 3 and maybe even Terminator Genesis. I haven't seen Salvation or Genesis in a while, and I'm actually because I'm doing commentaries for every single one of the films on the podcast, and I've done up to 3. So pretty soon I'm going to be rewatching Salvation and Genesis. But just off the top of my head, I even think Salvation looks better than Genesis. So, like effects-wise and whatnot.
Well, speaking of Genesis, this brings me to my next point/question. When I went to see Terminator 5, I went with this very, very lucky lady, as you can tell. And despite all, her luckiness wasn't the main thing that was pointed out that day. But she pointed out to me, and it made a lot of sense. She said, the problem with Terminator 5 Genesis is the one-liners. And she said that if you went back into that film and re-edited it and took out like 80 to 90% of the one-liners, the film is instantly better. And it's true, because like if you watch it, somebody says, oh, look, a bank card. He goes, never leave home without it. You know, all this kind of dumb jokes at every single scene. And it's like, stop trying to make Marvel films, make Terminator films.
Yeah, the one-liners are another interesting thing with any film that's part of a franchise. I mean, you know, the big one is obviously I'll Be Back, and I'm a big believer in, if you're in a franchise and you're trying to, so we'll pretend like this is 2015, right? And Terminator Genesis has not come out yet. I would still say this. Don't rely on those one-liners. Don't rely on fan service. Fan service is a bad thing, usually, because the film all of a sudden doesn't stand on its own, right? It's not its own thing. It's all of a sudden, oh, wow, yeah, I remember that from 84, from 91, or whenever. You know, you have to make a film that stands on its own. And that's one of the big things. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel, but I'm also going to be doing an episode of the podcast talking about this as well, where we talk about, you know, what we want to see in this next film. And that's one of my biggest things. No fan service. Keep it out. The fan service is built into the framework of this next film with the triangle. James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, right? That's the fan service right there. The fact that we're getting them all back. Don't do one-liners. Don't have Arnold say, I'll be back, or I'm back. None of that stuff. Or hasta la vista, baby. We don't need any of that. That's in the past. Make a film that stands on its own in the present, and I think you're going to be successful. And these are little dumb points to some people maybe, but I think there's a lot of fans out there. And there's a lot of fans that want this next film to be that true third sequel, because while you and a lot of other people might like Terminator 3, there's a lot of people, myself included, that despise the non-Cameron sequels. And it's just a fact, you know. That's why they're going the route they're going. When they were in the meetings, I'm 100% positive that, you know, they were like, oh, guys, Genesis, what the hell happened there? We got to rework this thing. And, you know, we're in a time where, look at the previous Halloween film that came out last year. It did the same thing. It negated every movie except for the first one. And I think it was honestly the best Halloween sequel that we've gotten. So I have hopes. I have very high hopes. And come Super Bowl time, if that's true, oh, dude, I'm so pumped. But yeah, Genesis is, I think, easily the worst of the bunch for so many reasons. It's so convoluted. Can you even explain to me what that movie's about?
it is quite it is very complex. Like, it's too complex for its own good.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you might try, but you get get those two writers who I don't even remember their names because I'm so mad at them, but get them in here and be like, hey, really explain to me what you thought you were writing. And I bet you they couldn't. They were just writing stuff because, oh, wow, that's cool.
But do you think it's a shame, though, that with Terminator 3, 4, and 5, that the director / overall vision has been changed for each new film? Like, do you think it's a shame we're not really getting to see what, like, Jonathan Mostow really had planned, or what McGee had planned, or whatever? Alan Taylor, I think the name is.
Correct. Yeah, Alan Taylor. Yeah, it is a shame, because that it would be like you creating something and losing the rights to it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to James Cameron. He actually, I don't even think he had the rights originally to make the second film. I think he had to really kind of, go out of his way and make deals and whatnot to make that film. So imagine that, imagine creating something and then you lose it and then it's gone and then you have nothing. Like, you really can't control who creates what in that. That's upsetting, I'm sure. Absolutely. So, the next film we're going to be getting is not from James Cameron officially. It's from Tim Miller, but I'm sure you've seen that Q&A that they both did when they announced the film. And, just the way Tim Miller talks, I can tell he's passionate. And it would be like me if I was on that stage. I would be like, oh my God, I'm making a Terminator film and James Cameron is to my left. Absolutely. So I have the most hopes for this next film. But let me tell you something. If this next film doesn't work and it feels like all those other sequels, I think it's pretty much dead in the water at this point. So there's a lot riding on this one, There's even more so than there was with Genesis, because Genesis was the supposed soft reboot and whatnot, but it didn't officially, when people found out about it, we didn't know that it was gonna erase stuff with time travel. This next film, they're literally telling us, forget those other movies. We're starting fresh. So you can only do that so many times before people just really don't care. And the general public, I'm in a Starbucks right now. I'm sitting in a Starbucks. I could honestly probably talk to every single person at the counter, and I'd be like, do you even care about Terminator, honestly? And they would probably be like, no, not really. There was those two good movies, but I don't really care about them anymore because why should I?
Gotta say, though, but the way Terminator 5 ended with Arnold's Terminator turning into the liquid version.
Oh yeah. Oh,
that would be weird, because that they would do a giant penis joke.
Really?
I just remembered something that I meant to say about Terminator 6. The big rumor is that in this film, Arnie might not actually be playing the Terminator. He might be playing the human version.
Yes.
In it, they're going to show us why the Terminator looks like him. But didn't they do that in the deleted scene of Terminator 3, which was also based on the James Cameron idea?
Correct. Yes. That was the Sergeant William Candy scene. And I've said that on the podcast. I've said that that's another thing. He cannot play a Terminator, at least for the vast majority of the film. He cannot be a Terminator. Please, dear God, do not make him a Terminator. He's in his 70s, everybody. And look at Genesis. That was such an atrocious aspect of that film. The way they utilized Arnold. I don't want to see an aging, malfunctioning Terminator. That's not what I want to see. So, yeah, he should play the human prototype, because I think that's something that people want to, fans of the franchise, we want to see that. We want to actually get that real story, not that Sergeant William Candy thing. That was, that was all done for comedy, and that's it. It was humorous. It got a good laugh out of me. But at the end of the day, I was like, wow, that was kind of stupid. And I see why they cut it.
And I also remembered another rumor that I met. The rumor I heard was that Robert Patrick is back for Terminator 6 and that he's also playing a human version.
I've also heard that as well. And, you know, I'm not 100% confirming anything, but I have met him. I recently met him this past October in Orlando, here in Orlando. He was at a Spooky Empire. It was like a science fiction horror convention. And he was the reason I went. And I didn't have a great experience, and that's on my YouTube channel. You guys can check that out if you want. But I asked him. That was one thing that I snuck in there, and I was just real quick about it. I was just like, anything you can tell me about the next film? And he just said, you know, I have no involvement in it. So either one of two options. He's either lying and he's just, you know, hiding the fact that he is in the movie for, you know, obvious reasons because they are trying to surprise us with that. Or the more likely option, he's not in the next film. And personally, I don't think that we need him in the next film, you know, because again, we have that triangle. We have it. We don't need Robert Patrick. You know, his time came and went, and he gave us arguably the greatest villain of all time, I think. He definitely gave us the greatest villain of all time.
Do you find James Cameron to be an annoying person? Because I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers ever, but he's also full of shit.
It's Cameron, and then right behind him is Stanley Kubrick. So James Cameron, yes, he is one of the best, in my opinion, is the best. And yeah, but he does have a big ego. Absolutely. I mean, the guy is literally set for life. He does not have to do anything anymore. He doesn't have to do these 7 Avatar sequels. He doesn't. But yeah, with that, I mean, think about that. Like, if you were in his position, you can say anything. Literally, you can say anything. And yeah, you might lose people along the way, but you're James Cameron. You are literally the king of the world. You know, when he did that at the Oscars after Titanic, that was, yeah, it was the truth. He's the king of the world. So he does contradict himself a lot, especially, like, remember with Genesis, he gave it his endorsement, but, you know, he later came back and he was like, well, you know, I only did that because Arnold is a friend of mine, and I wanted to support him in the moment and not say anything negative. I don't like doing that. So that's, you know, yeah, you know, it's tricky. I get where he's coming from, though. You know, if I had a friend who was making something and I saw it and I wasn't big on it, I would find something about it I liked and I would say something nice. But yeah, that quote on the back of the Blu-ray, I don't know if it's different over where you are, but over here in America, on the back of the Terminator Genesis Blu-ray, it has that quote from James Cameron on it. It says, "You are going to love this movie, James Cameron." And it bugs the hell out of me. I just want to, like, exit out, or yeah, it's awful. But yeah, James Cameron rocks. He's on my bucket list. Like, he's number one of I gotta meet him at some point. So,
you know, the thing is, I think I have more of a chance of meeting him than you, because I'm sure you may or may not know that Titanic was from Belfast.
There we go.
James Cameron is over here all the time, so I might bump into him and we'll go drinking together.
Dude, and seriously, if you do, you at least have to invite me to another hangout so that you can at least just, like, pan the camera over and be like, hey. Yeah, exactly.
Do you find it weird that we live in a time where we could actually beat up the Terminator?
I mean, what? It's 2019, so not really. No. Not personally. I mean, maybe it's weird to some people, but nah.
Well, here's the last two. Here's the two big important questions, and these are great questions, and these are vital important ones too. Who's the better band between Queen or the Beatles?
I only know a select few of both of their songs from their catalog, so the one that maybe gets me more in a pumped up mood or I'm more likely to listen to is Queen.
I would
Personally.
agree. Because that's the thing, because I always loved them both growing up, but just recently it's like, no, Queen is the better band, and it's caused a lot of commotion with my friends, but Queen are better than the Beatles.
Well, yeah, plus you have Bohemian Rhapsody that just came out, so
That
Queen is more popular at the time.
Terminator 2 is more factual than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
So, like, it's a great film, but it's so full of the big question.
Go ahead.
And this is the question that everything relies on: the success of your podcast, your chances of meeting James Cameron, of getting Linda Hamilton, Arnie on the podcast. This is the question.
Okay.
The Spice Girls are back. Who is your favorite Spice Girl?
I'm biased because she hosts America's Got Talent, Mel B.
No, the answer is Baby Spice.
That's her that's her stage name, correct?
No, you're thinking of Scary Spice.
Scary Spice. There we go. That's right. Damn it.
I mean, you're this close to meeting James Cameron, who's a Baby Spice fan. It's gonna blow the.
Yeah, Claudia Trujillo.
Yeah, that was a great interview, and she gave away, like, she didn't spoil anything, so people can listen and not worry about it. But near the time of that film, people are going to be like, "How'd he get her on the podcast?"
Yeah, dude. Seriously, and that's the beautiful thing about it, is the fact that the film hasn't come out, and so we don't know how big these roles are going to be. I mean, Claudia's role, from what I understand, is sort of limited, but it's the fact that she even came on. She didn't have to. And, I'm working on other people from the film coming on. And they're talking to their agents and whatnot, seeing if they can come on and talk. But did you listen to the Brett Azar episode?
I actually have that one and the Terminator 3 auto commentary downloaded.
Okay, yeah. Seriously, I've enjoyed every single guest I've had on, but Brett, he is without a doubt the best one so far because of how you can just hear in his voice how much he loved doing it. Because he was also in Genesis. He was Arnold's body double for these two films. And you just hear that passion. And he actually not gives away spoilers, but he actually kind of reveals stuff that I don't think anyone has heard. So that was really awesome to talk to him, and I was really stoked about that one. So he's probably the one where I'm going to be like, I still can't believe I had Brett Azar on the podcast. It's great. So thank you, man. I really do appreciate that you reached out to me, and we're going to stay in touch. Absolutely, 100%.
And I'd love to get you back on, and we could talk about after the trailer is released.
Oh, sure. Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Eddie. As you can see, the guy knows what he's talking about, and trust me, go check out his podcast. Okay, up next is Mike Durband, and we're debating the top 5 WWE entrance themes. And the great thing about this is one of the great things that me and Mike can bond over is the fact that we've had it with you dumb trolls. You people are so stupid, and it's never actually funny. All it does is just bore. You don't annoy. You don't make anyone laugh. It's not building up your profile. It's just really dull. And remember, if you want to hear this with the song clips, you've got to click on the effing download button for all your good podcasting apps. Mike, hello. Well, hey, Mike Durband, it's finally great to talk to you for the first time and live on the air. How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing? Great to meet you.
Frustrated? Did you ever get that thing where you go out of your way to get concert tickets and they're expensive and it's a lot of stress and you got to get up early to get the tickets and it costs a lot of money, so you buy them and then when the tickets finally arrive, you realize I don't want to.
Ireland, but here Ticketmaster rapes you.
Yeah, I just realized today because go with the. Four out of their 97 songs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cost me nearly £100 a ticket, and it's like.
This week on Vince Russo's brand, that was pretty much what the entire first hour of the show was about, was my hassle with wrestling fans.
Yeah, I've
wrestling fans, and then it's also the playground audience with the Vince brand fans. Not everything I'm telling you, it's 4% of our thinking around the world.
5 to 7, guys that just they won't stop, man. So.
Yeah, but my whole thing is with these wrestling fans is see, there's a difference between being a fan of something and then it taking over and controlling your life.
Yeah.
Like my show, it's not like Joe Rogan or Adam Carolla numbers, but it's got a following.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson show, and there was a few guys. Well, there was these 3 guys that I was talking to. They said, and because this was the week after my Vince Russo episode went out, and they says, "Oh, you're the guy, the It's Hughezy Hello guy. Who have you got coming up?" And I says, I got Bischoff and Nick Aldis coming up. And they said, "Ask Nick Aldis why isn't he in WWE?" And I said, "But he'll hang up on me in 2 seconds."
Yeah.
It's like, you dumb.
Like, he's asked that every day. I see on Twitter, on any kind of chat that he's doing. It's like, God damn, these guys, they just can't seem to get over stuff, man.
Yeah, it's like when I see him, his name in a podcast interview.
Yeah.
I always think, poor Vince Russo, because these people keep asking him the same. Have him have sex with a dead body. And the thing is, and they talk about how bad WWE is these days, it's like, well, who's writing that? It's not Russo, so who's...
You don't see it in any other industry, sports or movies, or even in comic book, that kind of world, the pop culture world. It's wrestling fans some of them are just sick in the mind, you know?
Yeah, but it's the way I see it with Vince Russo, it's kind of the case of if you used to go out with a popular girl and then you break up and the popular girl keeps talking so much
trying to get fighters off the partner girl instantly believe it. That's the point I think so is that they can't be imagined if David successfully said the blocks of comedians like my partner say that, but they're not here.
But one of the things, Mike, as we got you on the show today, is we're going to do because I know you're a music guy.
Yes.
I'm music coming out of my arse. I fart guitar riffs.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of wrestling connected, but it's not going to be wrestling talk.
Mm-hmm.
But today we're going to debut, and by debut I meant to say debate our personal top 5 wrestling entrance themes.
Okay.
So how easy was it for you to come up with your list?
It was not easy at all. I had, yesterday I sat there with my phone and I made a note, and I put 5 levels or 5 numbers, and then I wrote down probably 15 different wrestler theme songs, and it was very hard to narrow it down to the top 5.
Yeah, because for me, the way I was able to narrow it down is what's my top 5 as of today.
Yeah.
And then it'll probably change tomorrow and all, but hey, we're a couple of wild party animals.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you smack us in the face with whatever you've got there at number 5?
Number 5, I have one of my favorites from when I was a kid. 1988, 1989, 90, that era. Whenever this theme hit, we just went crazy. This was the Ultimate Warrior. That guitar riff.
Yeah, it's
It's so simple. Not that I have any other plans or anything like that. It's just the simplest riff. But then you come down out, shaking the lips, things like that stuff all the time. It's right anyway.
This is a great theme song, man.
the amazing thing with Ultimate Warrior gimmick is that if that happened today, it would be called racist.
Oh yeah,
because it's based on what they call them, the Indian. I can't think of tribal warriors or whatever they're called.
Yeah, like Native American kind of things.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that until I think was it Conrad that brought that up.
Would you like to hear my Native American joke?
Sure.
And this isn't racist in case you think I'm gonna drop you in the.
This guy's walking down from the closet, and he walks down the hall, and he sees this shirt. Native American Indian looking at this shirt, pointing, and he goes, this is the shirt I'm buying this for.
Oh, I'm buying it for my daughter, a high flying dove. And he says, what do you call her that? Well, why she call high flying dove? And the Native American says, oh, well, in our culture, whenever someone gives birth to a child, you name them after the first thing you see. And I seen a high flying dove. And he goes, oh, and the man says, oh, do you have any other children? He says, yes, I have a daughter called a bright shining star. And my eldest is my son called Two Dogs. Coming up to my number 5, one of his greatest opponents, and one of his greatest opponents is one of the greatest theme music ever, the model Rick Martel. This listening to it on cassette or whatever they had back then, in his office, going, "What about if it had a longer evil section? And it's walking down the room and it's with this fragrance and it's got a scare head. Let's get in here with my cocaine." Allegedly. Yeah, what do you think about Rick the Model Martel?
It's I wouldn't put it up there that high, but it did its job. It suited the character. It told you what he was about. He walked out, he walked the walk. He was very pompous. I can imagine him spraying that gimmick arrogance into the air. He's walking out.
But the thing I loved about this music as well is that, well, he always seemed to play a heel. Well, he always was a heel in WWE.
Yeah.
But whenever he won a match and that music was playing, and he always cheated to win, despite having a finisher, submission finisher. But he always cheated to win. And when the babyface be lying in the ring, be like, "Oh, what the?"
Number 4, I have another theme from that era. Another great heavy metal song, and this is Demolition.
Oh,
yeah.
Here comes the axe, and here comes the smashing.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a killer guitar riff. There's an amazing guitar solo. If you go later in the song, you'll hear it. It's just a really awesome guitar solo by Rick Derringer. And there's also vocals in the song, which, most wrestling theme songs don't have vocals in them, but this one does.
Yeah, it's an actual song.
Yeah.
But the thing is about this music, which is it's kind of baffling in a way. The WWE assumed they were going to be heels. Like, how can you give a heel a theme song like that and expect them not to get over?
Yeah.
And it's
awesome heavy metal song, and they got the leather face things over their faces, and then they take them off, and the makeup's underneath, the tongues come out. This is a perfect song, man.
And plus, I always used to love it when they had a match, especially when they were heels. They would do that thing where they were throwing double forearms at the same time.
Yeah.
And back then they were pretty stiff, so it looked like they were kicking the shit.
I mean, dude, if they had Demolition signed to a Legends contract like they do to these older guys, they would be selling so many T-shirts and action figures and all this other stuff. I mean, but for whatever reason, there's a grudge held by somebody, and they're just not welcome. It seems like certain people, they'll take anybody back. They'll take the Warrior back. They'll bring Goldberg back. People that just had bad breakups with them. But Demolition is not there. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, the thing about Warrior coming back, which is weird to me, is like, and I'm no snowflake, and I'm not like a political liberal type or whatever, but Warrior was so openly homophobic.
Oh, totally. Yeah, you can read the transcripts of what the guy said. It's amazing that, when did they bring him back? Was it 2013?
Yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't do that now with the snowflake mentality going on. There's no way they could bring him back in 2019. I mean, it would be picked up right away. It'd be huge news. Everybody would be posting his interviews and his transcripts and the videos of his talks on the college campuses. I mean, the guy was very, very homophobic.
And he said some really bad shit.
I thought it was amazing when I think it was last year, they had his wife was the face of some new campaign they had where something about acceptance and all that. But, it's so ironic. Your husband was very against all that. So,
yeah. And there was apparently he had a rep for being kind of racist in the back, but then everybody gets and he's one of the most misused guys in the company. It's Mike and Maria Kanellis' True Love song.
I'm not familiar with that one.
That's the shame, because he's never used on TV.
No.
And I remember when I seen him in TNA when he was the Miracle Mike Bennett, I thought if he comes to WWE, he's going to headline WrestleMania within 2 years. He's going to be like the next Rock. And they buried him because he suffers from a thing I call in wrestling called HGH, hot girl hate.
Yeah.
And that if you're going out with a gorgeous woman in real life, don't expect to get a career in WWE.
Yeah, that's true.
And plus,
I mean, they even changed his last name. He took her name for the storyline. You know, he's Mike Kanellis.
I'd take anything she wants me to take. She could. And this could be straight out of the Animalize album, this song.
Is it a rock song? I
It's
thought it was like, I don't even know what it is. So I thought it was like a kind of a romantic song. I thought, just from the way I know the screen graphics behind them when they come out. I don't think I've ever even seen a match that the guys had.
this is kind of like, you know, the Kiss song Reason to Live from Crazy Night.
Yeah.
This is the Paul Stanley would hear the song and he would go, "Guys, we gotta get back to the studio and write a new song."
Hey, what album is you know the song My Way?
By Kiss?
Yeah.
I don't even think I heard the song.
It's an 80s Kiss song. It's either on Crazy Nights or Animalize, I think. I'm not too familiar with 80s Kiss that much, but that's like my favorite 80s Kiss song.
I don't even think I know that one.
It's real synth heavy. It's not like there's no great guitar riff in it. I think it's mostly synth.
I've got a lot of hate with Kiss, you know.
Yeah.
They've announced they've had 3 or 4 UK tours in the past 10 years, and they've literally played Ireland one time.
Wow.
And it's like, guys, yeah, that song is off Crazy Nights. I've never even heard it before. I'm downloading it after this. And I've just got nuclear hate because I'm not going to stinking England to have to hear Kiss, especially because all I ever hear is a bunch of wankers go, "I really like your accent." And it's like, yeah, you're going to like it when I'm telling you I'm going to stab you if you don't.
And then the famous one.
Oh yeah,
This is another one where it goes perfectly with the character. You hear it first, that glass breaks, and then he just stomps out there cussing and MFing everything, marching down to the ring. He's gonna beat somebody's ass. This is a perfect song for that character.
Are you a Stone Cold or a Rock kind of girl?
Both, but more Stone Cold, I would guess, or I would say, yeah, definitely more Stone Cold.
See, Stone Cold's probably my favorite of all time, but his podcast has kind of put me off him.
Really?
Because he's kind of like, I wouldn't say that he's, well, yeah, actually, I would say he's kind of dull. And that he's got these 3 to 4 go-to answers no matter what he's asked. Like if someone would say, "Hey, Steve, what's your favorite Kiss song?" And he would say, "Well, goddamn, I remember when Owen Hart dropped me on my head. That's when I know there was a goddamn problem." What did you think about when Stone Cold turned heel and they changed up the entrance music?
What did they make it, like a heavier version? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was like a version with lyrics in it back when he was in the Invasion era.
I don't really remember that. I think I was kind of in and out during that period. I'm gonna go back and listen to that. I don't remember it.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't like it, but at the same time, I could get the logic of it because if someone is turning heel, you got to change.
Yeah, because you're gonna get a pop. You know.
Yeah, because Austin changed up his whole ring gear. Like he started wearing red and black and red and gold.
But the thing about that here for me makes sense to me is if things go back to bullshit on me, we should have changed his name to Stone Steve Austin again. Speaking of cool,
I'm gonna drop number 3 on you, and this is another fairly modern one. And this has also got that sort of pop thing that always gets you excited. Shinsuke Nakamura. Like this music is. See, the thing is, everybody loves Japanese people because they're great, and this has sort of that Japanese sort of. I don't even know what's the word. That sound, like the violin.
and it just sounds great. I think the best thing that ever happened to Shinsuke Nakamura was his debut in NXT. Because that entrance was amazing, and he had this brilliant match with Sami Zayn.
And then it was just back average for the rest of his career after that.
I liked when he had the when Nita Strauss came out at WrestleMania and played with him. Or was that WrestleMania or was it the Rumble? When he had that girl guitar player come out with him?
I think that was Mania, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Mania. That was awesome. That was really cool. And then when he turned heel, I think didn't they put lyrics in that one too?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great catchy song. It's got a really good hook to it.
It's amazing babyface music. I just can't believe it.
I haven't seen anything great from him. All I know is that he gives a lot of ball shots. That's it. That's all I've seen him do, man.
So does Paige. Or take shots from, but never mind. Yeah, no, but the thing about WWE, they have this thing that happens these days is that nobody ever gets protected. Everybody does the job.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
Yeah, it used to be like if we were going to beat Austin, well, somebody does a run-in so that while the heel gets over, the babyface stays strong. These days, it's like, no, he lost, back to the beginning.
Yeah. Number 2, CM Punk, Cult of Personality.
Oh, God.
Come on, Hughezy.
See, I like that song, but there's a guy on Creative Control Network called Dave Radigan.
Yeah.
And that's his podcast theme song.
Yeah.
And I...
So I think this was the last time he didn't have Cult of Personality for this one. He had the his original one, the Kill Switch Engage song. So he had that one, and that was the best match that I've ever seen in person in my life. That was phenomenal. That building, the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. You know, everybody says that's the best building. Stone Cold says it. Jericho. Everybody says that that's the best arena to wrestle in. You know, that and maybe the Garden. But that building shook that day, man. 100% of the fans in that building were booing the hell out of Cena, and when CM Punk came out, it just went crazy, man.
Would you consider yourself a CM Punk fan?
Huge. Yeah, definitely, man. Huge.
See, for me personally, I
can see why people hate him. I can definitely understand that. I don't know when last time I came to New York. That's what I think.
Like, I can understand kids being marks because they don't know any better, but the fact that he's actually in the business and still, like, I'll tell you exactly the sentence that he said that lost me was that when he was on Cole Cabana's podcast, and he said, in 2003, I was completely misused. And it's like, well, here's what happened in 2003. You wrestled The Rock twice, then The Undertaker, then Chris Jericho, then Brock Lesnar, and they put you on the cover of the computer game that year. So he likely made millions, and he goes, "I was misused." It's like, no, you weren't, you stupid.
And you got one of them, man, and you're gonna complain about that? No, you got two of them, and you're gonna complain. I see why people hate him. I definitely do.
And also, I never liked the CM Punk defenders. Were weird because when they would say, "Oh, he never got the headline as champion," it's like, but his first pay-per-view as champion, he headlined. You know, it was a 3-way TLC match, and it wasn't very good, but you know, he's a strange guy. But I've got to say, in regards to the song, I do like the song a lot.
Yeah,
but he
they were back for Raw at the Allstate Arena, and you know he had been gone for 2 months. Everyone's thinking, "Oh, he's going to come back. He's going to come back." You know, nobody knows he's going to do a run-in. So everyone's excited, man. People are talking about it online and at the show. That's all people were talking about. You had probably 75% of the crowd had CM Punk gear on, and at the top of the show, you know, they do the little intro, and then people are going nuts, man. And Paul Heyman walks out and cuts the promo. You know, he lightly touched on CM Punk, and then he went into something about Brock Lesnar, and he took Paul Heyman, the genius, took all that heat and just silenced everybody, man. It was pure genius the way they did that.
What do you think about the fans that even still today go to WWE shows and chant CM Punk?
You know, back in that first year, maybe when they were still doing it, I probably would have done. I probably did do it, you know, especially when they're in Chicago. I get it. Everybody wants him back. But the thing that pissed me off is when they would do it during AJ Lee's matches. So for the rest of her career, I think, you know, they were doing that. And that kind of pissed me off. That's taking the attention away from her. And it's just these marks that want to get themselves over, you know. That's all it is.
Yeah, but I always say to people, well, why don't you go do the UFC shows? That's where he works.
Yeah.
Because
they had his second UFC fight was here at the United Center last year. And I didn't go to it, man. I was thinking about going, but I knew he was going to get killed, so I didn't want to pay $200 to watch him get killed. And sure enough, that's what happened.
But I tell you one thing, I will give CM Punk credit for. That first fight he did, I thought that was nothing but dumb ego for him to even try to get in there, and he got the.
You know, he's never said that he's not going to do it again.
But to be honest, I do think he should get another chance against Mickey Gall. Because even though Mickey Gall dominated him the first time around, that was literally CM Punk's first ever fight ever. Yeah. So, like, he should have gone in against another first timer. But, you know. Now, this could have easily been a David Bowie song from the Let's Dance era. And the thing is, I don't like when snowflakes claim racism. But this Slick gimmick, like he was a jive-talking pimp that had fried chicken.
Yeah.
That's a great gimmick, it'll get over. But this music is
Wow.
But yeah, was this music Akeem's?
It was for everybody that Slick managed.
That was one of the few. See, to me, this was such a cool song that if you go back to Survivor Series 88, I think it was the second Survivor Series, and Slick's team walks out to that music, and it's like an original version of the NWO because WWE never really did gimmicks all that well. I mean, factions all that well. But with these guys all walking out and the crowd booing them and this class music and Slick jive talking to all the babies of the baby, amazing. And you could just picture Bowie doing this during his era when he thought he was a black man. What is that there?
This is the Pile Driver album. And that song is on here. Jive Soul Bro. This is a great album, man. You got Honky Tonk Man's theme song is on here. Demolition that we just talked about is on here. Jive Soul Bro. Vince McMahon's Stand Back. I'd like to hear you have a go at that one.
Baby. That's a fact. You know the thing I love about that is that there was a meeting where Vince said, "Well, I've got a great idea, guys. We've got the action figures, the games, the TV, and the baby. All we need to get into is music. Excuse me a second, I'm gonna sing a song, and it's gonna be called Stand Back. I'm gonna dance."
They did a lot of music videos for this album, though.
If you've ever wanted to see what wrestlers look like when they're on cocaine, you've got to watch the video for it's the Coco Beware song, and they're all
the actual song Pile Driver, yeah,
exactly, and they're all at having a lunch break on this building site, and the woman walks past, and they have to do all these close-ups, and you see the pupils on these guys, and it's like, oh, guys, it's time for a late night training session. So as we get to the all-important final lap, what have you got as the number one greatest theme song of all time?
Well, we just talked about Hogan, and I'm going to pick Hulk Hogan's Real American for number one.
Excellent.
Yeah. Rick Derringer again. And it wasn't even written for him. That's the weird thing. It was not for Hogan at first. It was for what was it? Mike Rotundo and what's the other guy?
Oh, the Varsity
guy. Yeah, I think the Varsity Club guys. Yeah. Whatever their WWE tag team name was, that was their theme song.
The Wyatt Grandes.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's incredible to hear that. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, if you go, they may have scrubbed it on the network. I don't think you can. They probably took it out. But Hogan came out to Eye of the Tiger during that era. And then eventually, he probably he wanted the Real American for himself, which worked out. That's a song that they put it on the loop back then. And that song would play for 15 minutes looped, and Hogan would just pose for 15 minutes after every show.
Do you think
the crowd was just so pumped?
Do you think it may be the greatest babyface music of all time? Because that is some proper.
And he comes out pointing at the crowd, posing. Come on, man, you can't top that.
But then Mr. America had it too. Whoever that guy was, we never found out.
Yeah, we didn't, but he used that song too. I think the first time he might have used Real American was when he did that run-in at WrestleMania 21 when he saved Eugene.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the first time that Real American was used for him in that era.
That segment when Hogan saved him, see when you think back to it, so we've got a guy pretending to have special needs, getting beat up by two guys pretending to be Muslim terrorists. So then Hulk, I hate the black people, Hogan comes out to save them and beats him with an American flag.
Yeah.
And then he snaps the Iranian flag in half, and him and Eugene celebrating. It's like, Vince, you.
Yeah.
And I still love the way, because I think Stone Cold Steve Austin stole his swagger walk from Jake the Snake. Because Jake would walk to the ring and he slowly, like, while this coolest. That music is class.
Yeah. Definitely a great song. Very eerie. You know, it's got a certain vibe to it. And you just picture him with that bag over his shoulder, walking out with that devilish look on his face. Man. You know, another song, I don't think that was written for him, though. Because if you go on YouTube and look up, there's a Hulk Hogan training montage video. And this is the song playing over that.
Yeah, I've seen
it's Hogan. I think it might be black and white footage of it's Hogan just going real hard in the gym, probably around 87, 88. And this is the theme song that they used.
Yeah, I think this was used not to be too much of a mark, but when he was feuding, when he was coming back from getting his ribs broken by King Kong Bundy for Mania 2, which incidentally is one of Hogan's greatest ever matches. But yeah, no, Jake the Snake, this music, it's the only wrestling music that I actually keep on my iTunes, because just when I hear it, I think.
Did you come for wrestling or just for vacation?
Just for a break, and I thought that.
And people from Australia, and there was a few Japanese people there. So yeah, I don't know why, but people love to go across the world to see wrestling.
I might actually go to StarCast too, because I've never been to Las Vegas, and plus, because I technically work with Disco Inferno and Conan and stuff.
Yeah,
maybe I might get an in to maybe get like into the backstage thing. So, but I'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we can meet up at Sapphires. You know, when you're here,
I would one of those disco hand jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Up next is a brilliant Jackie Martling. This guy is hilarious. And before anybody gets all shocked and surprised, if you're on the YouTube version, yes, it's going to be edited and censored, because YouTube is for snowflakes, and it's a site that's been designed now for people to get offended by stuff, so I have to censor it. And despite the fact that this is like the 22nd episode, and I've said this 22 times, people still keep asking me, why do you censor it? Why do you censor it? Well, it's the same answers that I said 22 episodes ago. So go think about that. But if you want to hear it uncut, you can go get it on all your podcast and streaming apps. It's not that hard to do. You simply click and you're done. Jackie's up talking about all kinds of hilarious stuff. He actually understood what I was able to say, which is unique. Jackie, hello. Jackie Martling, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's great to talk to you.
And I'm glad to be here.
Right. Are you a big fan of the Irish?
I'm a huge fan of the Irish. I'm about 25% Irish.
I'm about I was going to try to do a math joke, but then I realized I'm actually bad at math.
Well, I'm actually African American from the waist down.
Why? Because your dick stays TVs?
No, it's not that big. I'm just making a joke. In fact, that my dick is so small, I don't even have the right to make the joke about it.
You know, there's a lot of jokes that Irish guys have small dicks, but I'm here to change that. That my dick is massive, but it really smells.
Smells?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know who really enjoys dirty jokes? Albert Einstein.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and his favorite, this is a true story, his favorite joke was, my dick isn't that big, but I love every foot of it. That's a true story, Adam. Chime in a lot of these things. But first of all, I just, number one, do not understand jerking off in front of a girl. I mean, I am as horny as anybody I've ever met, and I've known every horny comedian and musician, and I'm a whoremonger from forever. But beating off in front of a girl has never been on my laundry list of moves, so I really don't comprehend that, which means he must be coming, it must be from a whole weird suppression, power trip, or whatever, and I'm no psychiatrist, but I love Louis, and he's great, you know, like, wait a minute, you know. But the whole thing with people recording shows, whether it's Louis CK or anybody, I really don't know what they can do about that. If they just made everybody check their cell phones at the door, you know somebody's going to walk in and take one out of their butt. It's just destroying everything. I mean, comedians are scared to go talk. They're scared to do anything. And not only that, if you record my set without me knowing it, it is so easy to edit it and make it look like you said all kinds of stuff that you never said. So, you know, it's the responsibility of the listener to know that it could be horse crap, but it's also the responsibility of people reading newspapers and watching TV to know it could be horse crap. So what we're basically dealing with is a horrible situation combined with really stupid people in the world. So we're in trouble. That's why I'm stocking up food and moving to Montana.
But the thing is as well, and you get that with Montana.
No, I'm kidding. But, you know, I didn't know that somebody recorded Louis, and, you know, they probably take anything he says, you know. He's a comedian, so he's fooling around. He's making jokes. And if you don't like the kind of jokes he makes, don't go see him. Stay
But I couldn't stop watching his awful show. But I had to stop because it was going grey.
Well, you know, if you're watching it, you know, there's always the whole train wreck theory, you know, like watching bad movies and stuff. You know, if you're watching something and enjoying it, I'm sorry, you're being entertained. Whether, you know, you've got 10 billion choices of things you can do. And if you're sitting there watching him, I think, Adam, you're secretly in love with him. And I think you should write him a love letter.
Only if I can write it in his blood.
Hey, now listen, I don't know, nobody in Ireland knows me. So tell people, now you guys have Twitter, the same as us, right? Is that the same?
Yeah.
Well, people follow me on Twitter at Jackie Martling, JackieMartling. And I write jokes every day. I don't write, but I post jokes every day at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's International Marijuana Time, no matter where you are. Filthy jokes. And I also email jokes to people. If you email me, jokeland at AOL.com. I would love to get some emails from Ireland. I'll send you CDs. I'll send you anything. I need to infiltrate Ireland. My cousin Lenny's retired, and he goes over there every 2 months to play golf. And he says it's the most beautiful country, and he's so in love because he used to be a rugby player. So he loves it over there. And I just really want an excuse to come to Ireland. So please email me, Jokeland, Jokeland at AOL.com. If you like jokes, there's no funnier guy in the world. If you don't like jokes, that's another thing, Adam. You know, if somebody comes to see my show and then after the show they come up and then they say, you know, I don't really like dirty jokes. It's like, what the
Fuck. Yeah, I want to switch that to a joke now. I don't like jokes. Like, who's the idiot? You know what I mean? So fair. I said the other thing about a couple of questions is ago, I can remember I can okay. This one screwed me my flex says
Could you stop using bad language around me, my kids here? I mean, we were like, you dumb.
don't bring your kid there, please, from the bar yesterday. Please, she wants your kid to a beer, you want the whole thing to drink your stuff.
Earlier on, bad movies, and that reminds me of another topic I want to talk to you about. Kevin Hart, one of the least funny people going now. He got himself into a bit of trouble there because he said this homophobic stuff. But
You know, that's another hell that everybody lives in. Is it anything you've ever said or done? You know, if he's, I'm not defending him or not defending him, but if he's a comedian and he's fooling around, I tell jokes. I tell gay jokes, Jewish jokes, shit jokes, cum jokes, Polish. I tell them all. I don't, because they're jokes. They're not meant to be mean. And if he said something like, "Oh, I don't want my kid to be gay," he's a comedian. He's fucking around. He said it 7 years ago, and people can go back and dig this up and say, "No, you know." It's like I knew Kevin Hart before he was black. You know, it's like, come on. You know, it's like, it's so ridiculous. You know, they can go back to your childhood now and find, oh, you know what? He's spitting some girl's soup in 7th grade. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. You know, the whole world's got to relax, I think. That's what I think.
Well, I just hope my kid grows up to be funnier than Kevin Hart. Not that that's going to take long.
Now, you know, I've never watched him. I know he's so rich and so famous. So I just assume he's really funny. I don't pay any attention to other comics, and it's not out of being snobby. It's like, you know, that's not what I do. I'm not even a comic. I'm a joke guy. All I care about is jokes and hearing jokes and telling jokes. You know, like I don't go to the opera and I don't go to see other comedians. You know, I mean, they're all my friends and I love them all. Anybody that's got the balls to stand up on stage and try and be funny, I respect you before you open your mouth. You know what I mean?
But that's another thing I'd love to ask you about. And to me, I think the greatest comic that ever lived was Rodney Dangerfield. So I'd love to hear from you because I know that you had some interactions with Rodney. Can you tell me some great Rodney Dangerfield memories?
Well, during the 70s, I mean, he was everybody's favorite. And I loved him so much. And the minute he did a Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, we'd be on the phone to each other, me and my friends, quoting his new jokes and just laughing our asses off. It was an event every time he was on Carson. And then it's in my books. You got to buy my book because it's a long story. And if you give me a street address, I don't know if I sent it to you already, but I'll send you a copy of my autobiography. But a friend of mine went to Dangerfield's in New York City, and we were just starting in comedy. And he said, Jackie, I went on at Dangerfield's, and Rodney loved me. He's going to use me on TV. And I was so jealous. So I wrote up put my jokes into Rodney Dangerfield type language. And I said, here, Richie, give this to Rodney. And then he's like, you know what? I lied. I didn't get on. I didn't meet Rodney. And I said, what am I going to do? I already wrote all these pages. So I put the pages in an envelope and just mailed it to Rodney, care at Dangerfield's Comedy Club in New York. And 2 days later, he called me up. And what wound up being his favorite joke of all time was one of the jokes I sold him. It was just an old, stupid joke from the South. But it was so perfect for him. And he always said it was his favorite joke. And I wound up traveling with him for a couple weeks. And I got all kinds of stories. I mean, it was because this is the guy. It wasn't just that I got to meet some famous comic. This is the guy that I loved, that I idolized, and who's as close to what I do. He says like joke after joke after joke. He's not telling you about his apartment or how sad he is about his girlfriend breaking up with him. He just punchline after punchline, it's exactly what I do. And we hit it off really great. I'll tell you one story that had nothing to do with me. There was a guy named John Fox. He passed away a couple of years ago, who was working with Rodney on a cartoon called Rodney Dangerfield. And Rodney was the voice of the dog, and John was playing his best friend. So they were together in Las Vegas, and they're staying in the penthouse of some hotel. They get in the elevator, and they're on their way down in a major Las Vegas hotel. And about halfway down, the doors open, and a little tiny Chinese woman gets in the elevator with him. This little woman. So the doors close. Adam, this is a true story. John Fox told me this. He couldn't even control himself. On the way down, Rodney cut the loudest, most disgusting wet fart. Like, it was so loud and disgusting. It was unbelievable. And Fox said the elevator was like somebody just crapped in the corner. And they got to the bottom floor, and the elevator doors open, and there's like 30 people waiting to get in the elevator. And as they walked out, Rodney looked down at the Chinese woman and said, "You know, you're really fucking disgusting." Can you imagine? Now that's like a 6th grade kid breaking balls, and he was like, he's like 70 years old.
My favorite Rodney one-liner of all time was when he goes, "Hey, the only way I can get women is by being myself, a rapist."
You gotta love him. You just gotta love him.
But the thing is, you've heard the classic Norm Macdonald story about Rodney towards the end.
I'm sure I have, but go ahead.
Yeah, he says that, and this was after Rodney had brain surgery in hospital. And Norm says he meets Rodney in a bar at a comedy club, and he goes, "Hey, Rodney, hey, how are you?" And he says that Rodney was sitting there with 2 prostitutes waiting on Ron Jeremy to turn up, and he says Rodney looks up at him, goes, "How am I doing? I'm sitting with 2 hoes waiting on a guy who can suck his own."
You talk about the definition of getting rode hard and put away wet, but he's just a nice character. He actually wore a Stump the Joke Man t-shirt, one of my t-shirts, in a movie he made for Trauma Pictures. I don't know if you ever heard of Trauma over there, TROMA. They make these horrible, low-budget horror movies that people just love because they're just such trash, He's a great character. You should interview him. I could give you his number. He'd love to talk to you.
I'll probably catch AIDS. But speaking of another comic that I love, that I know you had some run-ins or interactions with, Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, he's been a pal since 1979.
Let's hear some of your favorite Andrew Dice Clay memories or stories.
But it was funny because we'd be talking on the Stern Show and breaking balls, and when you get going, me and Howard and Fred and Robin, we're all talking, and you forget that the entire world. I've never done a podcast across the water before, and this is so fun,
Well, that reminds me of it. Well, that's one of the things that I always thought was weird about Howard Stern, and that as huge as your show was in America, Howard Stern, I think, really missed out on not giving a shit.
You know what I mean? So, but it was know if that was a famous channel or a little channel or whatever. You know, I just know, I know the rest of us didn't get paid. I'll tell you that, you know.
What do you think about how Howard Stern has changed over time? I mean, everybody's
I
changed.
don't listen. I don't listen. I don't pay attention. All I know is what people tell me. People stop me on the street and say, I don't like what the show's like now. And I'm like, don't tell me. I got nothing to do with it. One thing, people come up and say, Jackie, I know you're sick of hearing this, but I really love the days when you were on the Stern Show. And I say, listen, if I ever get sick of hearing that, I want you to put a bullet in my head, because I always love hearing that. You know, hey, I know you're sick of hearing this, but you're really funny. Don't ever stop telling me that. You know what I mean? That's what you live for as a comic, you know?
But talk to me, what was it like back in the Stern days when you would get the porn stars in? Because I always thought that the 90s was the greatest time for the porn women. So, like,
Yeah, no, but all of them, they like Jenna Jameson started coming on the show, and she was so cute. And the next time she came in, she had a breast enlargement. And the next time she came in, she had another one. They all get these monstrous, stupid, ugly, round watermelons. And they, you know, when they first come on, they're so cute. There's so many actresses, you know, that even dressed were so much hotter than the porn stars. And the girls that came in and took their tops off, people were like, wow, you're sitting right there and the girls are topless. I said, listen, those girls were so ugly. Most of them looked like the doctor did their breast surgery while he was talking on the phone. You know, the nipples are cross-eyed, or they're looking out into space. It's like, you know, me and Fred wouldn't even look up, you know. But it sounded great. You know, I'd be on the way home and somebody say, hey, how was that chick on the show today? I said, she was a pig. Oh, but Howard made her sound so beautiful. Well, that's his job, you know? So,
what was it like, though, when you were making the film Private Parts and you were filming that scene with Jenna Jameson? Because she was unbelievable back then.
I was sitting next to her for 3 days as she undressed and handed me her clothes, and I folded them and not only that, when we made the Stern movie, there were really weird hours because Howard had to be on the air every day. So we had a thing that was called French service, which means instead of breaking for lunch and breaking for dinner, there was always a buffet available, and you went and caught your food whenever you could take a break. And it was the most amazing outlay of food at Kaufman Astoria Studios in Queens. And Jenna, the 3 days she was there, she would stand at the buffet with her open robe on, completely naked. So there she is, standing there, looking at the buffet with her pussy hanging out, and these technicians are banging into each. It was, you know, if there were cell phones in those days, it's still burnt in my retina. She was so cute, and she just stand there with her twat hanging over the you know, the pasta salad. I think a couple noodles got caught in there. It was great.
Hey, honey, I don't want to tell you, but I think that Susie's off. Whoa!
Great fun.
But I gotta tell, another show I always loved listening to was Opie and Anthony, and of course that show's not on anymore, and they had a pretty bad breakup. So what's your take on the feud between Opie and Anthony?
I never listened to them, and I never paid attention, but I go on with Anthony once in a while, who has the Anthony Cumia Compound, and he has a great show. And I mean, he's all about Trump and the whole right wing. So I don't agree with anybody politically, but I get a kick out of him, and he's a great guy. And I also just did Opie's podcast. In fact, yesterday, Opie tweeted, Jackie, it's about time you come on the show again. So, you know, I'm very good friends with each of those guys because I get along with everybody. You know, I go on with Mark Simone, who is all about Trump, but I've known him for 40 years. I go on with Jim Kerr in the morning on Q104 in New York City. So it's the biggest radio show in Manhattan since, you know, on terrestrial radio since Howard bolted. And I do a podcast with this guy, David Feldman, who does the greatest podcast. And it's a liberal, brilliant political show with the greatest liberal political comedians. And then the last 10 minutes of his show is me telling the most filthy, disgusting, off-color jokes you've ever heard. I'm going to send you a couple of segments. It's blisteringly funny. In fact, I would love it if you played some of those on your show, because either the people in Ireland are going to say, You got to get that guy over here, or don't ever bring that. Right, okay. Well, listen, promise me you'll send me your street address, because I want to be able to look on Google where I was talking to.
Oh, no problem. But just as we come near the end, I've got the final two questions, and I ask everybody these, and these are all important questions.
All right, I'll answer the first one. 8 inches.
Your arsehole is 8 inches wide?
Huh?
Your asshole's 8
No,
inches.
that's folded in half so I can get it in my pants. You know, that's funny, because that's what I used to say to people. I used to say I'm 8 inches, which is a little too wide for most girls. So you and I think on the same track, you know.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, really.
I know they can't handle it.
Yeah. But here's the first question. Who's the better band, Queen or the Beatles?
I am such a Beatles fan, and always have been, and I knew nothing about Queen. But I got to tell you, I loved that movie so much, and I just got the screening copy from SAG, and I'm going to watch it again with my girlfriend. The Queen movie is fantastic. The guy was nothing like I ever imagined, and you know, and it's great. And I love the songs. I don't know many of their songs, but they are great, you know. But the Beatles were the Beatles, and I was playing in a band in 1962 before the Beatles got. I just been in love with them forever, so I'm not the guy to ask, you know.
Well, and here's the big final question, Jackie, and everything relies on this answer. Your career, your fan base, your house, everything. The Spice Girls are back. Who is your favorite Spice Girl?
I am so proud to announce that I can't even name one of those.
I'd like to.
And then you can hold it up next time, and we'll talk again. I'd love to talk to you again.
Isn't Jackie a funny man? Thank you for coming on, Jackie. And he says he wants to come back on. I'm going to have him back on. Just don't know when, but we will. That was the episode. I need to go to the toilet so badly. I'll see you next week, or whenever the next episode comes, with a couple of announcements. It's Hughezy. Bye-bye.